Hi friends, today we're going to be talking about biomes. A biome is an environment, a kind of environment that has different characteristics. You have these attached to your assignment. I actually cut the page in half right underneath tundra and above grassland, and I'm going to glue them on separate pages. I turned my notebook around because it would be easier to do that for the notes. So in order to understand how animals adapt to their environment, we have to know the different characteristics of an environment first to know how they adapt to that environment. So that's what we're going to do today, is to learn about all the different environments that living organisms can be found in. So you need your glue to glue them in. You also need scissors to cut it in half. And then you need something to color with and something to write with. So go ahead and do that and then come on back. While you do that, I'm going to be grabbing my pencil and dumping all of my stuff out that I'm going to use. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is the directions. So the directions here says, list 2 major characteristics of the climate of each biome in the boxes next to its picture. Name 2 plants and 2 animals found in the biome. And we are not going to do the temperatures on the thermometers yet. Okay, so I'm just going to say if it's hot or cold. Okay, so for the first thing, in deserts are very dry. So there's very little rain. At some points, it can get less than a foot of rain a year. And you think about sometimes other places get 2-3 feet in a month. So very little rain, being less than a foot, is not a lot. Another one is it is very hot during the day and very cold during the night. Oops, I forgot to put during the day and during the night. And let's see here, we have the cactus is a plant there. And we also have some animals such as lizards and some snakes. But we're going to find out what kind of characteristics these animals must have in order to live in the desert. Okay, our next one is the tundra. And before we move on the tundra, I'm going to be coloring that. All right, I colored my desert, and now we are moving on to the tundra. So the tundra has 2 different kinds of tundra. Tundra is the coldest, I'm going to put it over here. It is the coldest biome out there, but there are 2 different kinds. Polar tundra is also called the Arctic tundra, and it's located in the most northern part of the world. The ground is permanently frozen. It's always frozen. And it also has very little rain. Okay. Another one is the alpine tundra. Now the alpine tundra can be found in many countries around the world. And this is the really cold areas that are up high, like on the tops of mountains. I'm going to put up here mountains. In an alpine tundra, it is not permanently frozen. In a polar tundra, it is permanently frozen. So I'm going to color this and I will be back. All right, there is my tundra. I am going to go to the next page. Actually, I'm going to flip that over there. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be focusing on are grasslands. Now there are two different kinds of grasslands. We have the temperate grassland and we have the savannas. So the difference between the temperate grassland and the savannas is that the grassland does not support trees as much. It is mostly just grass and types of grass. Savannas have a mixture of different kinds of trees and plants and shrubs. So a temperate grassland supports only true grasses. Now they could be really tall grasses, but only true grasses. And very little, if any, woody plants. So we're going to say very little trees or shrubs. Both a grassland and a savanna, they have moderate temperatures. So they don't get extremely cold where it's frozen all the time, and it's not extremely hot like the desert, but it can get hot and it can get cold. Now a savanna is also called a prairie. And this one has all kinds of plants, trees, grasses, shrubs. It also has a moderate rainfall, meaning that it's not like a desert, but it's not always raining. Okay, there is my grassland picture all finished. Now we are going to focus on, I'm going to put this here, 3 different kinds of forests. We have our coniferous forest, we have our tropical rainforest, and our temperate deciduous. So the difference between these 3 are the kinds of trees that grow in there and a little bit of the amount of rainfall and their temperatures. So we're going to go with the temperate deciduous. Deciduous trees are the trees that change color. They have the leaves that change color and fall. Change color and fall off. Those are called leaf shedding trees. So because it has a moderate temperature and plus all the leaves that are decaying, it equals a fertile soil. So a lot of different things can grow. The leaves fall down, they start to decay. And this is usually in the next latitude ring in North America. So it would be Northeastern Asia, Europe, and North America. Those are the temperate deciduous. Okay. Now this one here, coniferous or coniferous, I guess it depends on the person that's saying it, these have pine trees and trees and evergreens. They do not change their leaves. They stay the same throughout the year. And if we remember from when we did plants and different kinds of plants, these are the spore-bearing ones. So they do the pine cones and everything. Those are called spores. So these are found in the northwestern America, South Japan, New Zealand, northwestern Europe. These forests are also called temperate rainforests because the amount of rainfall they see, even though it is not a tropical rainforest, it is called a temperate rainforest. Tropical means that it's hotter. Temperate is a more moderate temperature. So they get a lot of rain. Okay. And then the last one is the rainforest. Now the rainforest they're a tropical rainforest, and the tropical rainforest means that it is hot. It is very hot and it is very wet. That's why they call it the rainforest. So that is located around the equator, where it is the hottest. It rains all the time. Rainforest, it has a large amount of life, different kinds of life, the variety of life. It has a constant temperature. A lot like Florida has a consistent temperature. It kind of varies up and down, but overall it is not too cold, not too hot. It's around the same. They do have a dry season where it doesn't rain as much. And there are 12 hours of light a day. So there are a lot of plants. So there's a large variety of life. And when we think about the rainforest, there are different layers where there are trees and the animals have to fight for the sunlight. So we're going to be learning about that as well in there. So I'm going to color this, come back, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, there is our forest. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to flip this over to the next page. And I'm going to glue in here my aquatic biomes, aquatic meaning water. There we go. There we go. All right. And then I'm going to glue the other one, the one that says freshwater. So we're going to do a little bit different than what the directions say here because I'm not using it as an activity, I'm using it as notes. So aquatic meaning ocean or water. Okay. So it says aquatic biomes together make up 75% of Earth's surface. Only about 3% of Earth's surface is drinkable. So the first one is going to be oceans. Oceans are salty, saltwater. We have fish, sharks, lots of underwater plants. We have coral, seaweed, and things like that. Let me see, we have one down here. We have starfish. So oceans are the very large place. And it is saltwater. So if I go down here to coral reefs are areas in the ocean that is built up with a large amount of coral. Coral is not a plant. Coral is actually a living organism. So when we say seaweed is a plant, coral is not a plant. It's actually a living organism. We have a large amount of sea life live in the coral reef. All right, in an estuary, I'm going to go back to here. An estuary is actually an area where the ocean meets a river or a freshwater. So it's something called brackish water, which is a mixture of salt and fresh. So the animals in there are going to have to be able to live in a mixture of salt and fresh water. All right. Pause it and finish the notes. I'm going to color this and I will be back. All right, there is my first aquatic biomes. Those are the salt water options: oceans, estuary, and coral reefs. Now we're going to be moving on to fresh water. Okay, so we have rivers and streams, ponds and lakes, and wetlands. Well, the difference between rivers and streams are rivers are large bodies of fresh water. Sometimes it is what they meet the ocean and become brackish, which is a mixture of salt water and fresh water. And streams are a actively moving body of water. So I'm going to say this is a large body of fresh water. Sometimes it's brackish. And then streams are a steadily flowing body of water. So it's constantly moving, steadily moving body of water. Usually smaller than a river. Okay, now ponds and lakes. Ponds ponds and lakes are all surrounded by bodies of, they're bodies of water that are all surrounded by land. Ponds are smaller than lakes. So they're surrounded by land completely. Lakes can be very large. Ponds are typically smaller. Okay. So what we're going to do here are the wetlands. Now, wetlands are an area of land So an area of land that has water flowing through it. So it's like it could look like a forest and it has a lot of water going through it. So it is always wet. It has a lot of places for animals to hide and things like that. So we're not going to worry about this part, but I am going to color this and come on back. All right, there's my final notes. So we have 4 pages of different biomes. So what we're going to do is, once we know what the different biomes are, which is where the different environments that animals and plants can live, then we will be able to know how they have to adapt in order to live in that environment.